Most people do not struggle because they lack intelligence or opportunity. They struggle because their daily life feels scattered and heavy. Tasks pile up. Attention moves in too many directions. Time slips away without clear progress. Over time, this creates stress, confusion, and a quiet sense of frustration. Organization is often seen as something complex or overwhelming. In reality, it begins with simple daily habits that shape how you think, act, and respond to life. When your habits are clear and consistent, your mind becomes calmer. Your decisions become easier. Your days start to feel more controlled and meaningful. This audiobook focuses on practical habits that bring structure back into your life without adding pressure. Each idea is designed to be simple, repeatable, and useful in real situations. Nothing here depends on motivation. Everything depends on small actions repeated with intention. As you move through these lessons, you will learn how to reduce mental noise, manage your time with clarity, protect your focus, and build routines that support long-term stability. You will also see how small changes, done consistently, can reshape the way your life feels from day to day. There is no need for perfection. What matters is direction, a calmer mind, a clearer schedule, a more steady way of living. These habits are not about doing more. They are about doing what matters in a simpler and more controlled way. Stay with this, and you will understand how quiet discipline can gradually change the structure of your entire life. Chapter 1. Build a quiet daily system that reduces chaos. Most chaos in life does not come from one big event. It usually comes from too many small things happening at once. A crowded schedule, a noisy mind, a phone that never stops pulling attention, a room that stays messy, tasks that are started and never finished, promises made without a clear plan. Slowly, these small things build pressure until even simple days begin to feel heavy. A quiet daily system changes that. A quiet daily system is not about living a boring life or avoiding responsibility. It is about building a life that does not waste energy on confusion. It is about creating a simple structure that helps you know what matters each day and what does not. It is about reducing the amount of decisions you make in a rushed state. It is about moving through the day with calm intention instead of constant reaction. A person with a quiet system is not always free from problems. No one is. But that person is less likely to be swept away by every demand, every mood, and every distraction. There is a difference between a life filled with challenges and a life filled with chaos. Challenges can be faced with discipline. Chaos drains strength before the day even begins. A quiet system protects your strength so you can use it where it counts. There is wisdom in simplicity. A life does not become better because it becomes more crowded. It becomes better when the right things are made easier to repeat. When your good actions become ordinary, your life starts to change in a stable way. That is what a quiet daily system does. It removes friction, it gives shape to the day, it helps you think clearly, it helps you act with steadiness. Over time, it gives you a kind of calm power that is hard to shake. Many people believe they need more motivation. They think they need a stronger mood or a perfect morning or a fresh burst of energy. But motivation is unstable. It appears and disappears. A system stays. A system carries you when your energy is low. A system keeps you moving when your feelings are uncertain. A system is a form of self-respect because it says your life deserves order, even when your emotions are not cooperating. The first step is to accept that chaos is expensive. It costs time, it costs attention, it costs peace, it costs confidence. When your day is scattered, your mind becomes scattered too. You may feel busy, but busyness is not the same as progress. You may feel tired, but tiredness is not always from work. Often it comes from switching too often, thinking too much, and deciding too late. A quiet system lowers those costs. Start by making the day more visible. Many people begin the morning with no clear shape. They wake up and immediately respond to what is urgent instead of what is important. Messages appear. Notifications appear. Thoughts appear. A problem from yesterday returns. Before long, the day belongs to everything except your real purpose. A simple system begins before that moment. It begins with a plan that is so clear you do not need to argue with yourself. The plan does not need to be complex. In fact, the best plans are often the simplest. Write down the 3 most important things for the day. Not 10, not 15. 3, these are the actions that truly matter. They may be work tasks, they may be family responsibilities, they may be a hard conversation, they may be exercise, they may be organizing an area of your home. The point is not quantity, the point is clarity. A quiet system gives your mind one clear path instead of 10 competing ones. When people try to do too much at once, they lose energy through indecision. They look at a long list and feel pressure before they even begin. A short list creates movement. It says this is enough for today. It gives you permission to focus. That permission is valuable. It reduces mental noise. It helps you start without resistance. The mind often calms down when it knows exactly what is expected. The next step is to give each part of the day a purpose. Morning, afternoon, and evening should not all feel the same. A quiet system does not mean every hour is packed. It means each part of the day has a basic role. The morning can be for clear thinking and the most demanding task. The afternoon can be for follow-through and practical work. The evening can be for review and recovery. When the day has a rhythm, the mind stops feeling lost. It knows where it is. A person without rhythm often feels like they are always catching up. They wake up behind. They work in a rush. They end the day with guilt. That cycle becomes normal if it is not interrupted. A quiet daily system breaks that cycle by creating repeatable shape. You do not need a perfect schedule. You need a stable one. Stability is more powerful than intensity because stability lasts. One of the simplest ways to build stability is to reduce the number of choices you make each day. Too many choices wear down the mind. That is why it helps to decide some things in advance. What time will you wake up? What will you do first? Where will you place your keys? What will you wear on ordinary days? What will you eat when you need something simple? What time will you stop using your phone at night? These may seem like small decisions, but they carry weight. Every choice you remove from the day gives your attention back to the things that matter. This is not about becoming rigid. It is about reducing waste. A wise person does not spend energy on choices that can be made once and repeated many times. That is how discipline becomes easier. You are not forcing yourself to decide everything again and again. You are building habits that decide for you. Another important part of a quiet system is the way you begin your morning. The first hour of the day often sets the tone for the rest. If the first thing you do is check messages and react to other people's needs, your mind becomes outward before it becomes centered. If the first thing you do is rush, your body learns urgency. If the first thing you do is sit in stillness for a few minutes, drink water, wash your face, and review your day, your mind learns order. That difference matters more than people realize. A calm morning does not require a dramatic routine. It only requires consistency. Wake up at a reasonable time. Avoid jumping straight into noise. Take a moment to breathe and notice the room around you. Make your bed or tidy the space you use most. Drink water. Look at your simple plan for the day. These are not glamorous actions. They are powerful because they teach the mind how to move. They remind you that you are in charge of the first moments, not the world. The quiet system must also include a way to handle interruptions. Interruptions are part of life. No one can eliminate them entirely, but you can decide how much control they have over you. When something unexpected happens, pause before reacting. Ask whether it is truly urgent or whether it merely feels urgent. Many things feel urgent because they are loud, not because they are important. A calm response protects your judgment. A hurried response often creates more problems. Stoic thinking helps here. A Stoic does not try to control everything. A Stoic controls the response. That is a deep kind of freedom. The world will continue to move in unpredictable ways. Messages will arrive. Plans will change. Problems will appear. What matters is whether your inner order remains strong enough to carry you through them. A quiet system trains that strength There is also great value in protecting your space. A messy environment often creates mental friction. You may not notice it at first, but clutter asks for attention every time you look at it. It reminds you of unfinished tasks. It interrupts your focus. It can make even simple actions feel heavier. A quiet system includes a basic standard for your environment. Keep the main areas of your home or workspace clear enough to think. Put things back where they belong. Remove items you do not need. Clean a little each day instead of allowing disorder to grow. This is not just about appearance. It is about mental ease. A clear space supports a clear mind. When your surroundings are organized, your nervous system relaxes. You stop spending energy searching, shifting and fixing small problems. That energy becomes available for thought, work and rest. A calm room can support a calmer life. The same principle applies to digital life. Digital chaos is one of the biggest causes of mental fatigue today. Too many alerts, too many tabs, too many messages, too much scrolling. A quiet system includes boundaries for your phone and computer. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Check messages at planned times instead of constantly. Keep the number of open apps limited. Put your phone away during focused work and during meals. These actions may seem small, but they protect a huge amount of attention. Attention is one of the most valuable parts of life. Guard it carefully. You do not need to hate technology to use it wisely. You only need to stop allowing it to interrupt your mind without permission. The moment you control your screen instead of letting your screen control you, your day becomes quieter. A strong daily system also includes a work method that reduces stress. Many people feel overwhelmed because they begin with whatever appears first. A quiet system begins with what matters most. Do the hard task earlier when possible. This does not mean you must attack the hardest thing the instant you wake up. It means you should not hide from meaningful work for half the day. The longer you delay an important task, the more mental weight it carries. When you start early, the rest of the day often feels lighter. Work in focused blocks. Give your full attention to one task for a set amount of time. Then pause. Then begin again. This is far better than half working while thinking about 5 other things. Real progress needs presence. Presence is a form of calm discipline. It says this moment matters. When you bring full attention to one task, you reduce the internal noise that comes from scattered effort. A quiet system also respects energy, not just time. Some people plan every hour, but ignore the fact that their energy changes across the day. They expect themselves to perform the same way at all times, and then feel frustrated when they cannot. A wiser approach is to notice when your mind is sharp and when it is slower. Use sharper hours for more demanding work. Use lower energy hours for simple tasks, cleanup, review, or rest. This is not weakness, it is intelligence. A steady life is built on awareness. Rest is part of the system too. Many people treat rest as a reward they only deserve after total exhaustion. That approach creates breakdowns. Rest is not laziness, it is maintenance. If you do not pause, your mind becomes noisy and your body becomes tense. A quiet system includes recovery on purpose. Take short breaks. Step away from screens. Sit in silence sometimes. Sleep enough. Eat in a way that supports your day. These are basic acts of discipline because they protect your ability to keep going. Another powerful habit is the evening review. A quiet day does not end by accident. It closes with intention. At the end of the day, ask yourself what was done well. Ask what created stress. Ask what needs to be carried into tomorrow. This does not need to take long. A few honest minutes are enough. The purpose is not self-criticism. The purpose is awareness. When you review your day, you stop carrying confusion into the next one. You clean up mentally before sleep. That is a gift to yourself. Write down any unfinished tasks that matter. Clear the mind of loose ends. Prepare what you need for the next morning. Lay out what you will wear. Place your notebook or phone where it belongs. Charge your devices. Set up the first task for the next day if possible. These small actions reduce morning friction. They make the next day easier to enter. A good evening creates a better morning. This habit of preparation is one of the most overlooked forms of self-respect. It says your future self deserves less confusion. It says you are willing to do a little work now in order to protect peace later. That is what disciplined people do. They build bridges for the next version of themselves. As your quiet system grows stronger, you will notice something important. You will stop needing to feel ready before acting. That is a sign of maturity. Many people wait to feel clear, motivated, or confident. But clarity often comes through action, not before it. A system removes the pressure to wait for the perfect moment. It gives you a reliable starting point. Even on difficult days, you know what to do first. That simple knowledge can carry you far. There will still be days when things go wrong. Schedules will break. Energy will drop. Unexpected responsibilities will appear. That is normal. A quiet system is not fragile. It is flexible enough to survive rough days without falling apart. When life gets noisy, return to the basics. Drink water. Clear the space around you. Write down the next step. Focus on one thing. Breathe. Continue. That is how resilience works. It does not always look dramatic. Often it looks quiet, steady, and ordinary. This is the deeper lesson. A strong life is not built from occasional big efforts. It is built from repeated simple acts done with care. Small habits are not small in their effects. They shape identity. They shape confidence. They shape the way you handle pressure. A person who repeatedly organizes the day will eventually think more clearly. A person who repeatedly chooses calm over reaction will eventually become harder to disturb. A person who repeatedly follows a quiet system will eventually live with more strength than they expected. Do not underestimate the power of ordinary discipline. The world often celebrates excitement, but it is quiet consistency that changes a life. The person who keeps showing up with structure becomes dependable to others and to themselves. That kind of trust is priceless. It reduces fear. It reduces self-doubt. It gives you a stable base. There is no need to wait for life to become less chaotic before building order. Order is not a result of perfect conditions. It is a decision made inside imperfect conditions. Begin where you are. Use what you have. Keep the system simple enough to repeat. Start with a clear morning. Protect your attention. Reduce choices. Keep your space clean enough to think. Review your day. Prepare for tomorrow. Repeat these actions until they become part of how you live. At first, the changes may seem small. The room may still feel the same. The problems may still be there. Your schedule may still be full. But something inside will begin to shift. You will feel less pulled in every direction. You will feel more able to begin. You will feel less helpless in front of your own life. That feeling matters. It is the beginning of real change. A quiet daily system does not promise a perfect life. Nothing honest can promise that. What it offers is much better. It offers a life that is easier to steer. It offers a mind that is less crowded. It offers a stronger response to stress. It offers a daily pattern that supports growth instead of fighting it. It gives you room to think. It gives you room to act. It gives you room to become the kind of person who does not need constant noise to feel alive. That is the value of silence in organization. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space. Space for thought. Space for discipline. Space for truth. Space for the kind of steady progress that changes everything over time. When you build a quiet system, you are not removing life. You are making room for a better life to take shape. Begin today with one simple choice. Make the day smaller and clearer. Cut away one source of unnecessary noise. Write down the few things that matter most. Protect 1 hour from distraction. Clean one area. Prepare for tomorrow before it arrives. Do not wait for a perfect mood. Do not wait for a better season. Start with what is in front of you. Small actions repeated with patience become a way of living. A calm life is built one quiet decision at a time, and once you begin living that way, you will understand something deeply true. You were never meant to survive through constant chaos. You were meant to move with purpose. You were meant to build a life that supports your mind, your work, your values, and your peace. That begins with a quiet daily system that reduces chaos and gives your life a stronger shape. Chapter 2. Eliminate unnecessary commitments and create space for growth. Some lives do not become heavy because of one major problem. They become heavy because of too many small obligations that were never examined. A yes said too quickly, a promise made out of guilt, a favor repeated too often, a plan accepted without enough thought, a message answered before asking whether it even deserved a reply. Over time, these small choices fill the calendar and leave little room for growth. Eliminating unnecessary commitments is not selfish. It is responsible. It is one of the clearest signs that a person understands the value of time, energy, and attention. When everything is treated as important, nothing is truly protected. Growth needs room. It needs quiet. It needs space to breathe. If every hour is taken by other people's demands and old habits, there is no place left for learning, rest, reflection, or progress. A person cannot build a stronger life while constantly carrying what no longer belongs to it. Some commitments were useful once. Some were accepted during a different season. Some were born from pressure rather than purpose. The problem is that many people keep holding on long after the value is gone. They keep showing up out of habit. They keep saying yes because saying no feels uncomfortable. They keep draining themselves because they fear disappointing others. But a life built on endless reaction will always feel crowded. Growth begins when you become honest about what deserves your energy. That honesty may feel uncomfortable at first. It can be difficult to admit that a certain responsibility no longer fits your season. It can be hard to accept that some requests are simply not yours to carry. But clarity often arrives after discomfort. Once you see what is unnecessary, you can begin to release it. Start by asking a simple question about every commitment in your life. Does this help me grow, or does it only keep me busy? That question can change everything. Many things look important because they are loud, familiar, or expected. But importance should be measured by value, not by pressure. If a commitment does not support your health, your purpose, your family, your work, or your peace, then it may be costing more than it gives. There is a strong difference between responsibility and overextension. Responsibility is wise. It is rooted in duty, care, and consistency. Overextension happens when a person keeps taking on more than they can carry and then calls it strength. It is not strength. It is often fear dressed as kindness, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as difficult, fear of missing out, fear of being judged. A mature person learns that not every request deserves a yes. The ability to say no is one of the quiet skills that can transform a life. It does not need to be harsh. It does not need to be dramatic. It can be calm, respectful, and firm. No is a complete sentence when needed. You do not owe a full explanation for protecting your time. You do not need to build a long defense every time you choose peace. The more comfortable you become with clear boundaries, the more freedom you create for what actually matters. A lot of unnecessary commitments survive because people never pause long enough to review them. They keep old obligations on autopilot. They attend events out of habit. They volunteer for things they do not truly have space for. They accept extra tasks because they think good people always help. But good people also know their limits. They know that exhaustion does not make someone more valuable. It often makes them less effective, less patient, and less present. Review your obligations with honesty. Look at your weekly routines, your social plans, your work habits, and even your mental commitments. Some things may not appear on a calendar but still take up space in your head. Worrying about opinions, replaying old conversations, trying to please everyone, carrying unresolved guilt. These invisible commitments can be as draining as a full schedule. Release what is not helping you move forward. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every expectation deserves your loyalty. Creating space for growth means allowing time for the things that improve you. Reading, thinking, exercising, practicing a skill, resting properly, planning carefully, reflecting honestly. These things often get pushed aside when life is overloaded. Yet, these are the very things that help a person become stronger. You cannot grow deeply in a life that never slows down enough for roots to form. A quiet person with clear priorities often moves farther than a busy person with no direction. That is because growth requires more than activity. It requires focused effort. It requires enough space to absorb what you learn. It requires enough stillness to notice what is changing inside you. If every moment is spent answering demands, there is no room left. One of the hardest lessons in life is that not every opportunity is a blessing. Some opportunities are distractions. Some are flattering but empty. Some create movement without meaning. You may feel honored to be asked. You may feel wanted. You may even feel useful. But useful does not always mean aligned. A strong life is built by choosing what supports your future instead of what simply fills your present. This is where discipline becomes deeply practical. Discipline is not just about working harder. It is about removing what weakens your focus. It is about protecting your best energy for the tasks that matter most. It is about refusing to let your life become a collection of obligations that no longer reflect who you are becoming. Every unnecessary yes has a cost. Sometimes the cost is sleep. Sometimes it is peace. Sometimes it is the very opportunity you needed for growth, but could not reach because your time was already scattered. When you remove unnecessary commitments, something powerful happens. Your mind feels less crowded. Your days become more manageable. Your decisions become clearer. You stop running on pressure and begin living with intention. You begin to notice what truly deserves to stay. This is not about becoming isolated or refusing to help others. It is about helping from a place of strength instead of from a place of depletion. A person who is always empty has little to give. A person who protects their energy can give with more care and more consistency. There is also a deeper peace that comes from living with fewer obligations. It is the peace of not being constantly behind. It is the peace of not pretending you can do everything. It is the peace of knowing that your schedule reflects your values rather than your fear. That peace is not lazy. It is disciplined. It comes from making wise decisions early instead of stressful decisions late. If you want to create space for growth, begin with one area of your life and simplify it. Maybe it is your social calendar. Maybe it is a work habit. Maybe it is a personal responsibility you have carried too long. Maybe it is the need to respond to everyone immediately. Cut one thing that drains you without returning enough value. Then protect the space that remains. Do not rush to refill it. Leave room for something better to take root. Growth rarely arrives in a loud way. Often it appears in the quiet relief of a lighter schedule. It shows up in the extra hour you can finally use to think. It appears in the calm you feel when your evening is not packed. It appears in the way your mind becomes sharper when it is no longer pulled in many directions. That is the reward of simplification. Not emptiness, possibility. A person who removes what is unnecessary becomes more available to what is meaningful. There is strength in that kind of life. There is dignity in it too. You begin to stand on your own choices instead of on the expectations of everyone else. You begin to move with purpose. You begin to protect the space your future requires. The path forward is not to do more. It is to do what matters and let go of what does not. That is how room is created. That is how growth begins. That is how a life becomes less crowded and more intentional. And when you learn to carry only what belongs to you, you make room for the person you are becoming. Chapter 3. Create clear priorities that guide every important decision. A life without clear priorities becomes vulnerable to noise. Every request feels equal. Every task feels urgent. Every opinion seems worth considering. In that kind of life, the mind becomes tired before the work is even done. Energy gets wasted on things that look important but do not truly move anything forward. Clear priorities solve that problem. They give the day a backbone. They help you decide quickly, act calmly, and avoid the confusion that comes from treating everything as a priority. Many people struggle not because they are lazy, but because they have never clearly chosen what matters most. They wake up and react. They check messages and react. They see a problem and react. They hear a request and react. Reaction is not the same as direction. A person can stay active all day and still go nowhere meaningful. That is why priorities matter. They turn movement into progress. They tell your mind where to focus when the world tries to pull you in many directions. A strong priority system begins with honesty. You cannot organize your life well if you are unclear about what kind of life you want to build. Ask yourself what deserves protection in your life. Your health, your peace, your work, your family, your learning, your values, your future. These are not abstract ideas. They are the foundation of a stable life. When you know what matters most, you stop giving equal weight to everything around you. This kind of clarity is not something people stumble into by accident. It is built through reflection and repetition. You have to pause long enough to see what your life has become and what it needs to become next. Some people are loyal to habits that no longer support them. They stay busy because being busy feels safer than deciding. But a mature life does not depend on constant activity. It depends on meaningful direction. A clear priority gives direction. It says this matters more than that. It gives your mind a standard to follow. Without priorities, the day controls you. With priorities, you control the day. That does not mean every hour becomes easy. It means every hour has a purpose. You stop asking yourself, what should I do next every few minutes? Instead, you already know. This simple change lowers stress more than most people realize. Mental exhaustion often comes from repeated decision-making. When your priorities are clear, you no longer have to negotiate with yourself all day. The answer is already there. The first priority should be tied to the kind of person you want to become. Not the version other people expect. Not the version that looks impressive for a moment. The version that is honest, disciplined, and steady. If your actions are not helping that version grow, then they are likely pulling you away from it. Clear priorities are not built on excitement. They are built on values. Values stay steady when feelings change. One practical way to create priorities is to choose a small number of life areas that matter most right now. For one person, it may be rebuilding health. For another, it may be finishing education. For another, it may be creating more stability at home. For someone else, it may be learning how to manage money with discipline. The point is not to do everything at once. The point is to identify the season you are in and what that season requires. A life becomes easier to manage when it stops trying to solve every problem at the same time. You should also learn to separate important from urgent. Urgent things demand attention now. Important things shape your future. Many people give their best energy to urgency and leave importance unattended. A message may feel urgent. A minor request may feel urgent. A small interruption may feel urgent. But your health, your relationships, your long-term work, and your character are usually the more important matters. Clear priorities protect what is important, even when urgency tries to steal the day. This is where discipline becomes deeply practical. Discipline is not only about doing hard things. It is also about refusing to let lesser things replace greater ones. A person with priorities can look at a crowded day and still know what must happen. If the day falls apart, they still have a center. That center keeps them from drifting. It helps them recover faster. It reminds them that one disrupted plan does not mean the whole life is lost. When priorities are clear, your choices become simpler. You no longer need to overthink every opportunity. You ask one question: does this support what matters most right now? If the answer is no, then it can be declined, delayed, or removed. That question protects time better than pressure ever could. It keeps your life from being shaped by impulse and other people's expectations. It gives you a quiet form of strength. You become harder to manipulate because you are no longer unclear about your direction. A person who knows their priorities also learns to live with less guilt. Guilt often appears when you say yes to one thing while neglecting something more important. People feel torn because they have not settled the order of their life. Once the order is clear, guilt loses some of its power. You can say no without panic. You can stay focused without apology. You can dedicate your energy where it belongs. That is not selfish. That is responsible living. Clear priorities are especially useful during difficult days. When life becomes emotionally heavy, the mind wants to scatter. It wants comfort. It wants escape. It wants distraction. In those moments, having a clear priority can keep you grounded. You may not feel strong, but you still know the next right step. That is how resilience is built. Not by always feeling ready, but by knowing what matters even when feelings are unstable. Another benefit of clear priorities is that they help you measure progress honestly. If you do not know what matters most, you may mistake motion for growth. You may be proud of being busy while your real life remains unchanged. Priorities solve that confusion. They help you see whether your days are producing the results you actually want. They expose wasted effort. They reward focused effort. They keep your standards realistic and firm. A simple habit can strengthen this system. At the start of each day, write down the one thing that matters most, not the only thing, the most important thing. Then identify 2 supporting actions that help it move forward. This keeps your mind from spreading out too quickly. It creates a path. When the day becomes noisy, return to that path. Do not let every interruption become a new direction. The goal is not to be rigid. The goal is to stay aligned. It also helps to review your priorities at the end of the week. Ask what received the most attention and whether it deserved that attention. Ask what was neglected and why. This simple review can reveal patterns that are hard to see in the moment. Maybe you keep delaying meaningful work. Maybe you keep giving too much attention to other people's problems. Maybe your time is being lost in small habits that do not support your future. Honest review makes correction possible. A life guided by priorities is calmer because it is less divided. You are not trying to be everything to everyone. You are learning to be faithful to what matters. That faithfulness builds trust in yourself. It also builds peace. There is a quiet relief in knowing that your actions are not random. You are no longer living from impulse alone. You are moving by principle. That does not make life perfect. It makes life directed. There will still be pressure. There will still be competing demands. There will still be moments when you feel pulled away from your center. But clear priorities give you a way back. They remind you what deserves your yes and what deserves your silence. They help you protect your best energy for the few things that truly shape your life. The more clearly you define your priorities, the less often you will need to explain yourself. Your choices will speak for you. Your schedule will reflect your values. Your habits will show what you believe. That is a powerful kind of order. It is not loud. It does not require praise. It simply works. In the end, a well-ordered life is not built by chance. It is built by repeated decisions that honor what matters most. Priorities are the quiet rules that keep those decisions strong. They help you move with purpose instead of confusion. They keep your days honest. They keep your mind steady. They keep your life pointed in the right direction. When you know your priorities, you stop living as if everything is equal. You begin to understand that some things deserve your attention and others do not. Some things deserve your full energy and others can wait. That understanding is not small. It is the beginning of Self-Mastery, Chapter 4. Develop consistent morning habits that strengthen self-discipline. The way you begin your morning quietly shapes the rest of your day. Not because mornings are magical in themselves, but because the first choices you make tell your mind what kind of person you are becoming. If the first minutes of the day are rushed and unplanned, the mind learns haste. If they are calm and deliberate, the mind learns control. That is why consistent morning habits matter so much. They do more than help you stay organized. They train self-discipline in a way that reaches into every other part of life. Self-discipline is not built in one moment. It grows through repeated actions that seem small at first, but become powerful through consistency. Morning habits are one of the best places to begin because they happen before the day gets crowded. Before the phone pulls at your attention, before other people's needs take over, before excuses start to form. Those first hours can become a private space where you choose order before the world asks anything from you. A strong morning does not need to be complicated. In fact, the simpler it is, the easier it is to repeat. Waking up at a steady time is one of the first signs of discipline. It tells the body that life is not controlled by random impulses. It tells the mind that there is structure here. Many people think discipline begins with doing hard tasks, but often it begins with something as basic as getting up when you said you would. That one habit builds trust in yourself. Trust in yourself is one of the foundations of lasting change. After waking, give yourself a few quiet minutes before reaching for stimulation. Do not let the phone be the first thing that touches your attention. That habit gives away control before the day has even started. Sit up. Breathe. Notice your surroundings. Feel the room. This is not wasted time. It is a way of entering the day with awareness instead of confusion. When you start with awareness, your thoughts become clearer and your choices become steadier. Simple physical actions can also strengthen discipline early in the day. Wash your face, make your bed, drink water, open a window if possible. Tidy the space around you. These actions may seem ordinary, but they create a powerful message. They tell your mind that the day will not be left to chance. They create a sense of readiness. A person who tends to the basics in the morning often carries more order into the rest of the day. A morning routine should support the kind of life you are trying to build. If you want more focus, include a short time of silence or reflection. If you want more clarity, write down your main tasks. If you want more strength, add movement such as stretching or a walk. If you want more self-respect, begin by keeping one promise to yourself before anything else demands your attention. The exact habits matter less than the consistency behind them. The goal is to build a pattern that your mind can rely on. There is deep value in beginning the day with intention. Intention is different from hope. Hope says things may go well. Intention says I will choose my actions carefully. That shift matters. It changes the way you carry yourself. It helps you move from passive waiting into active responsibility. A disciplined morning is a daily reminder that your life is shaped more by what you repeat than by what you wish for. One useful habit is to review the day before it begins. Look at your responsibilities and decide what truly matters. This keeps you from drifting into other people's demands before you have even formed your own direction. A clear morning plan does not need to be long. It only needs to be honest. Know the few things that deserve your strongest attention. Put them in order, then begin. A disciplined person does not wait for perfect motivation. They move with clarity even when feelings are quiet. Another practice that strengthens discipline is doing one difficult or meaningful task early. This is not about punishing yourself. It is about training your mind to face what matters instead of avoiding it. When you complete something important early in the day, your confidence rises. You feel less divided. You stop carrying the weight of unfinished work in the back of your mind. That relief matters. It gives the rest of the day a firmer shape. Stillness can be just as important as action. A few minutes of quiet reflection in the morning can strengthen the inner part of discipline. Sit without noise. Think about what kind of person you want to be today. Ask yourself how you want to respond when stress appears. Ask yourself what kind of attitude you want to carry. This type of reflection is powerful because it prepares the mind before pressure arrives. It is much easier to stay calm later when you have already chosen calm in advance. Discipline also grows when you make your mornings repeatable. That means avoiding too much variety when it does not serve a purpose. Same basic wake-up routine, same place for your keys, same order for the first few actions. Consistency reduces mental effort. It removes the need to decide everything from scratch each day. That saved energy can then go toward work, family, learning, and problem solving. A repeatable morning is not boring. It is efficient. It protects your strength. It is important not to treat a missed morning as a failure that ruins the entire day. Discipline is not fragile. If you sleep later than planned or the routine gets interrupted, do not give up on the day. Return to the next right action. Drink water, clear your space, write down what matters, start again. Mature discipline is not perfection. It is recovery. It is the ability to regain order without self-hatred or drama. The more often you keep your morning habits, the more your identity begins to change. You stop seeing discipline as something distant and start recognizing it as part of who you are. That shift is important. People often try to change behavior without changing identity. But habits become stronger when they are connected to self-image. A person who sees themselves as organized will act differently from a person who feels scattered. Morning routines help shape that self-image one day at a time. There is also a practical benefit to disciplined mornings that people often overlook. They reduce regret. A disorganized start often brings a sense of being behind all day. Even if the work gets done, the mind carries stress from the beginning. A clear morning lowers that burden. It gives you a better chance of ending the day with peace rather than frustration. That is a real advantage in a busy life. Keep in mind that good habits do not need to be impressive to be effective. The goal is not to create a routine that sounds admirable to others. The goal is to create one that works when no one is watching. That is where self-discipline becomes real. It is private, it is honest, it shows up in small choices made consistently. Wake up, wash your face, sit in silence. Plan the day, move your body. Begin the most important task. Repeat tomorrow. Over time, these small acts build something larger than a routine. They build self-trust, they build calm, they build endurance, they build a mind that is less easily shaken by pressure. That is what makes morning habits so valuable. They do not just prepare your day, they prepare your character. A person who learns to govern the morning learns to govern more of life. Not perfectly, not without struggle, but steadily. And steadiness changes everything. When you begin with discipline, the day no longer feels like something that happens to you. It becomes something you enter with purpose. That shift is quiet, but it is powerful. Chapter 5. Protect your focus by removing daily distractions. Focus is one of the most valuable resources a person possesses, yet it is often treated as if it has no value at all. People protect their money, they protect their possessions, they protect their homes, but many allow their attention to be pulled apart dozens of times every day without resistance. They give away their concentration to notifications, interruptions, unnecessary conversations, endless entertainment, and habits that provide momentary stimulation, but leave nothing meaningful behind. The result is not always obvious at first. Life continues moving forward. Tasks still get completed. Responsibilities are still handled, yet beneath the surface there is a growing sense of frustration. Important goals move slowly. Projects remain unfinished. Personal growth feels distant. The mind feels crowded even when the schedule is not completely full. What many people mistake for a lack of ability is often a lack of protected focus. Focus is not simply the ability to pay attention. It is the ability to direct your attention where it matters and keep it there long enough for meaningful work to happen. Without that ability, effort becomes scattered. Energy leaks away in small amounts throughout the day until very little remains for the things that could truly improve your life. One of the greatest challenges of modern life is that distractions rarely appear as threats. They often arrive as harmless opportunities. A quick glance at a phone, a short video, a message that seems important, a piece of news, a random thought that suddenly feels urgent. None of these seem significant by themselves. The problem is not one interruption. The problem is hundreds of interruptions repeated day after day. Every distraction leaves a small mark on your attention. Even after the interruption ends, part of your mind remains attached to it. You may return to your work physically, but mentally you are still carrying fragments of what pulled you away. When this happens repeatedly, deep concentration becomes difficult. The mind never settles fully into the task before it is called somewhere else. A disciplined life requires recognizing that focus is not something that appears automatically. It must be protected deliberately. If you do not guard it, other people, devices, and circumstances will happily consume it for you. The first step is becoming aware of where your attention actually goes. Many people believe they are focused because they are busy. Activity and focus are not the same thing. You can spend an entire day moving from one task to another without making meaningful progress. Busyness often creates the illusion of productivity while hiding the absence of real concentration. Pay attention to how often your focus shifts. Notice how many times you stop what you are doing to check something unrelated. Notice how often your mind searches for stimulation when a task becomes challenging. Awareness creates choice. Until you see the pattern clearly, it remains difficult to change. One common source of distraction is the desire for constant input. Many people have become uncomfortable with quiet moments. Waiting in line requires a screen, walking requires audio, eating requires entertainment. Sitting alone for a few minutes feels strange. The mind becomes so accustomed to receiving information that stillness begins to feel unfamiliar. Yet stillness is where focus grows stronger. A mind that never experiences silence struggles to develop depth. It becomes skilled at consuming information but weak at processing it. Reflection becomes rare, thought becomes shallow, concentration becomes fragile. Learning to spend time without constant stimulation is one of the most effective ways to rebuild attention. This does not mean rejecting technology or avoiding enjoyment. It means becoming intentional. Use tools when they serve a purpose. Do not allow them to become automatic habits that control your behavior. Another major distraction comes from unfinished mental business. Unresolved worries, postponed decisions, lingering frustrations, and neglected responsibilities all compete for attention. Even when they are not visible, they occupy mental space. The mind repeatedly returns to them because it wants closure. This is why writing things down can be so powerful. When a concern remains trapped in your thoughts, it continues demanding attention. When it is placed on paper, it becomes something concrete. You can evaluate it. You can plan for it. You can decide whether action is needed. Clarity reduces mental noise. Focus also improves when you learn to work with intention rather than emotion. Many people only give their full attention when they feel motivated. The problem is that motivation changes constantly. Some days it is strong, other days it disappears without explanation. A person guided only by motivation becomes inconsistent. A person guided by intention remains steady. Intention says the task deserves attention regardless of mood. It shifts the question from, "Do I feel like doing this?" to, "Does this matter?" That small change creates remarkable results over time. The environment around you also influences your ability to concentrate. Every object in view competes for a portion of attention. Every unnecessary sound creates another demand on awareness. Every source of visual clutter asks the brain to process additional adding. Creating a focused environment does not require perfection. It simply requires reducing unnecessary demands. Keep only what supports the task in front of you. Remove items that encourage avoidance. Create spaces associated with productive activity. The goal is to make concentration easier rather than constantly fighting against distraction. The people around you can also affect your focus. Some individuals bring encouragement and clarity. Others bring constant drama, negativity, and unnecessary urgency. Every conversation influences the quality of your thinking. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with different people. Do you feel energized, thoughtful, and motivated? Or do you feel drained, distracted, and emotionally exhausted? This awareness helps you make wiser decisions about where your attention is invested. Protecting focus sometimes requires disappointing others, not because you are selfish, but because meaningful work demands uninterrupted attention. You cannot be available to everyone at every moment and still give your best effort to important goals. There is a difference between being helpful and being constantly accessible. Constant accessibility creates fragmentation. Every interruption forces the mind to restart. Every restart consumes energy. Over time, this pattern weakens both productivity and peace of mind. Learning to protect periods of uninterrupted work is one of the most valuable habits you can develop. During these periods, give complete attention to one responsibility. Resist the urge to switch tasks. Resist the temptation to seek quick entertainment. Stay with the work long enough for momentum to develop. Momentum is powerful because it reduces resistance. Many tasks feel difficult at the beginning. Once concentration deepens, the work often becomes easier. Unfortunately, distractions interrupt this process before momentum has a chance to build. Another hidden distraction is the pursuit of perfection. Some people struggle to focus because they spend too much time worrying about doing everything flawlessly. They overanalyze simple decisions. They delay action while searching for certainty. They spend more energy thinking about work than actually doing it. Progress requires acceptance that imperfect action is often better than endless hesitation. Focus grows stronger when attention moves toward executions instead of endless evaluation. Comparison can also destroy concentration. The moment you become consumed by what others are doing, your attention leaves your own path. You begin measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. You begin questioning decisions that were previously clear. You begin chasing directions that may not even align with your goals. A focused person understands that attention is limited. Every minute spent obsessing over someone else's journey is a minute unavailable for improving your own. Your energy belongs with your growth, your responsibilities, and your development. There is also tremendous value in completing what you start. Every unfinished task creates a small psychological burden. The mind remembers incomplete commitments. They remain in the background, quietly demanding attention. Finishing important work creates mental freedom. It closes open loops and allows attention to move forward. This does not mean every project must be completed immediately. It means developing the habit of bringing meaningful efforts to a proper conclusion rather than constantly abandoning them for something newer and more exciting. Patience plays an important role in focus as well. Deep progress often happens slowly. Skills require repetition. Knowledge requires study. Growth requires time. Distractions become attractive because they offer immediate stimulation. Focus asks for patience because the rewards arrive later. The person who develops patience gains a tremendous advantage. They become capable of staying with important work long after others have become distracted. They continue improving while others are chasing novelty. They build strength while others seek constant entertainment. A Stoic perspective reminds us that attention is one of the few things truly under our control. We cannot control every circumstance. We cannot control other people's behavior. We cannot control unexpected events. We can control where we place our focus. This realization creates freedom. Instead of constantly reacting to everything around you, you begin choosing what deserves your attention. You become less influenced by external noise. You become more connected to your own values and responsibilities. Over time, protecting focus creates noticeable changes. Decisions become clearer, work improves. Learning accelerates, stress decreases, confidence grows because you see evidence of progress. You begin trusting your ability to direct your life, rather than being pulled in every direction by whatever demands attention in the moment. The goal is not to eliminate every distraction forever. That is impossible. Life will always contain interruptions. Unexpected situations will arise. New demands will appear. The goal is to become stronger than the distractions. Each day presents a choice. You can allow attention to scatter across countless small demands, or you can guide it toward what truly matters. One path creates frustration, confusion, and unfinished potential. The other creates growth, accomplishment, and peace. The quality of your focus influences the quality of your life more than most people realize. Every achievement begins with attention. Every skill improves through concentration. Every meaningful goal requires sustained effort. Guard your focus carefully. Treat it as something valuable, because it is. The direction of your attention determines the direction of your life. When you learn to remove daily distractions and protect your concentration, you gain something far greater than productivity. You gain the ability to fully engage with what matters most and build a life guided by purpose rather than interruption. Chapter 6: Simplify your environment to support productive actions. Many people spend years trying to improve their habits without realizing that their surroundings are quietly working against them. They focus on motivation, willpower, and determination while ignoring the environment they interact with every day. Yet the truth is simple. Your environment influences your behavior more than you may realize. The spaces you live in, the objects you keep around you, and the systems you create all shape your actions in subtle but powerful ways. When an environment is complicated, productive behavior becomes harder. When an environment is simple, productive behavior becomes easier. This is one of the most overlooked principles of personal growth. Success is not only about changing yourself, it is also about creating conditions that support the person you want to become. Every day, your surroundings send messages to your mind. A crowded room sends one message. A well-organized room sends another. A desk covered with unfinished tasks creates a different feeling than a desk prepared for focused work. These details may seem small, but small influences repeated daily create significant effects over time. Many people underestimate how much energy they lose navigating unnecessary complexity. They spend valuable minutes searching for misplaced items. They become frustrated by disorder. They feel mentally tired before beginning important work because their environment constantly demands attention. These small frustrations accumulate. They create resistance where there should be ease. A simplified environment removes unnecessary obstacles between intention and action. It helps you move directly toward what matters, instead of wasting energy managing avoidable problems. Productivity often improves, not because a person works harder, but because fewer barriers stand in the way. Think about how often people postpone positive actions because the setup feels inconvenient. They delay exercise because the equipment is difficult to access. They avoid reading because books are hidden away. They struggle to focus because their workspace invites distraction. In many cases, the challenge is not lack of desire. The challenge is unnecessary friction. A productive environment reduces friction. It makes good choices easier and poor choices less convenient. This principle can transform daily life when applied consistently. Start by looking honestly at the spaces where you spend most of your time. Observe them without judgment. Simply notice what they encourage. Does your workspace support concentration or interruption? Does your bedroom encourage rest or overstimulation? Does your home make healthy habits convenient or difficult? Your answers reveal valuable information. Every environment has a direction. It either supports your goals or quietly pulls you away from them. Once you recognize this reality, you gain the ability to make deliberate improvements. Simplification begins with removing what no longer serves a useful purpose. Many people hold on to items they rarely use. Drawers become crowded. Closets become overloaded. Shelves fill with objects that provide little value. Eventually, the environment becomes visually noisy. The mind must process more information than necessary every time it enters the space. This does not mean owning as little as possible. It means being intentional about what remains. Keep what serves a clear purpose. Keep what adds genuine value. Release what creates clutter without contribution. Every item should earn its place. There is something surprisingly powerful about entering a room that feels orderly and functional. The mind relaxes. Attention becomes clearer. Decisions require less effort. A simplified space creates a sense of readiness. It invites action rather than avoidance. This principle applies beyond physical possessions. It also applies to visual input. Many people surround themselves with reminders of unfinished projects, unresolved obligations, scattered responsibilities. Notes cover every surface. Papers pile up. Tasks accumulate without organization. When everything demands attention, nothing receives proper attention. Creating designated places for important materials helps reduce this mental burden. Give everything a home. Store items where they belong. Develop simple systems for handling information. These practices may seem basic, but they create a foundation for greater effectiveness. Your environment should also support the habits you want to strengthen. If you want to read more, place books where they're easy to reach. If you want to write regularly, keep your materials prepared. If you want healthier eating habits, make nutritious options visible and accessible. Human behavior often follows the path of least resistance. Instead of constantly fighting this reality, use it to your advantage. Design your surroundings so productive actions become the natural choice. One reason many people struggle with consistency is that they rely too heavily on willpower. Willpower is valuable, but it is not unlimited. Every decision consumes mental energy. A well-designed environment reduces the number of difficult decisions required throughout the day. Imagine two different situations. In one, productive tools are organized, accessible, and ready for use. In the other, everything must be searched for, prepared, and arranged before work can begin. Which situation makes consistent action more likely? The answer is obvious. Simplicity creates momentum. A Stoic perspective teaches that wisdom often involves focusing on what can be controlled. Your environment is one of those things. You may not control every circumstance outside your home or workplace, but you can influence the spaces you use daily. You can create conditions that support discipline instead of undermining it. Many people wait for external circumstances to improve before taking action. They believe productivity will arrive once life becomes easier. But productive people often work in the opposite direction. They improve their environment first, making meaningful action easier to sustain regardless of circumstances. This approach creates a sense of personal responsibility. Instead of blaming conditions, you begin shaping them. Instead of adapting to disorder, you build order intentionally. This shift strengthens confidence because it reinforces the belief that your choices matter. The concept of simplicity also extends to scheduling. An overloaded calendar creates environmental stress just as surely as a cluttered room. When every hour is filled, the mind rarely experiences breathing room. There is little opportunity for reflection, adjustment, or recovery. A simplified schedule leaves space for what truly matters. It allows important activities to receive proper attention. It reduces the constant pressure of rushing from one commitment to another. This creates a calmer mental environment, which supports better thinking and better decisions. Technology deserves careful consideration as well. Digital spaces influence behavior as much as physical spaces. A phone filled with distractions creates a different experience than one organized around intentional use. A computer desktop covered with random files creates a different experience than one designed for clarity. Consider how your digital environment affects your attention. Remove unnecessary applications, organize important files, reduce visual clutter, simplify navigation. Small improvements can save countless moments of frustration over time. Productive environments are not built in a single day. They evolve through ongoing refinement. Pay attention to what creates difficulty. Notice recurring obstacles. Ask yourself how a process could be simplified. Look for opportunities to remove unnecessary steps. This mindset turns organization into something practical rather than cosmetic. The goal is not appearance alone. The goal is function. Every improvement should make important actions easier to perform consistently. Another important aspect of simplification is reducing emotional clutter. Many people carry reminders of past disappointments, unfinished conflicts, and outdated identities. Certain possessions, spaces, or habits keep them connected to versions of themselves they have already outgrown. Growth sometimes requires letting go, not because the past has no value, but because the future requires room. A simplified environment supports forward movement. It reflects who you are becoming rather than who you used to be. As your surroundings become more intentional, you may notice changes beyond productivity. Stress often decreases. Decision-making becomes easier. Daily routines feel smoother. The mind spends less energy managing chaos and more energy pursuing meaningful goals. This transformation rarely happens through dramatic changes. More often, it develops through small improvements repeated consistently. 1 drawer organized, 1 workspace cleared, 1 process simplified, 1 unnecessary item removed. Over time, these actions create noticeable results. There is wisdom in creating an environment that quietly supports your values. A space that encourages learning supports growth. A space that encourages preparation supports responsibility. A space that encourages focus supports achievement. The environment cannot do the work for you. No room, system, or organizational method can replace personal effort. But the right environment can make effort more effective. It can reduce resistance. It can strengthen consistency. It can help good intentions become regular actions. A simplified environment becomes a silent partner in your development. It works in the background every day. It removes obstacles before they become problems. It supports your goals even when motivation fluctuates. It creates conditions where discipline can flourish naturally. The quality of your surroundings influences the quality of your actions. The quality of your actions influences the quality of your life. This connection is too important to ignore. Take responsibility for the spaces you occupy. Shape them with purpose. Remove what distracts. Keep what serves. Build systems that support your growth. Create conditions that encourage the person you want to become. When your environment supports productive actions, progress requires less struggle. The path forward becomes clearer. Your energy is used more wisely. Your attention stays where it belongs. And little by little, the life you are building begins to reflect the order, clarity, and purpose you have created around you. Chapter 7. Strengthen emotional control through calm and silent reflection. One of the greatest challenges in life is not managing time, money, work, or responsibilities. It is managing yourself. A person can have talent, knowledge, opportunity, and resources, yet still struggle because emotions constantly take control. Anger can destroy relationships in a few moments. Fear can prevent action for years. Frustration can cloud judgment. Anxiety can steal peace from an otherwise good day. Emotional reactions often create more problems than the situations that trigger them. This is why emotional control is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. It affects every decision, every conversation, every relationship, and every challenge. When emotions are unmanaged, life becomes unstable. When emotions are understood and guided wisely, life becomes more balanced and purposeful. Many people misunderstand emotional control. They assume it means suppressing feelings or pretending emotions do not exist. It does not. Real emotional control means recognizing what you feel without allowing those feelings to control your actions. It means creating space between emotion and response. It means remaining capable of wise decisions even when strong feelings are present. This ability is rarely developed in noisy environments. It grows through calm and silent reflection. Silence gives emotions room to reveal themselves honestly. In constant activity, feelings often remain hidden beneath distractions. People stay busy because busyness helps them avoid uncomfortable thoughts. They keep moving because stopping feels difficult. They fill every quiet moment with entertainment because they do not want to face what is happening inside. Yet whatever is ignored does not disappear. Unexamined emotions remain active beneath the surface. They influence behavior without permission. They affect choices without awareness. They shape attitudes without being questioned. Silent reflection brings these hidden influences into view. There is tremendous strength in sitting quietly and observing your inner world without judgment. At first, this may feel unfamiliar. The mind may wander, thoughts may appear quickly, old memories may return, unfinished concerns may surface. This is normal. Reflection is not about achieving a perfectly empty mind. It is about developing awareness. Awareness changes everything. You cannot guide what you refuse to acknowledge. Once you begin noticing emotional patterns, you gain the opportunity to respond differently. You start seeing how certain situations trigger frustration. You recognize recurring fears. You identify habits of thinking that create unnecessary suffering. What was once automatic becomes visible. Many emotional struggles are intensified because people react immediately. Something happens and they respond without pause. Someone says something upsetting and anger takes over. An unexpected problem appears and panic follows. A disappointment occurs and discouragement settles in. The gap between event and reaction becomes very small. Calm reflection helps expand that gap. When you learn to pause before responding, you create room for wisdom. Instead of acting from the first emotion that appears, you allow yourself time to consider what response serves you best. This skill becomes incredibly valuable during difficult moments. Problems become easier to navigate because emotions no longer dictate every decision. A Stoic perspective teaches that external events are often beyond our control, but our responses remain our responsibility. This idea is simple but powerful. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control circumstances, other people, and outcomes. When those efforts fail, frustration grows. RAF shifts attention inward. It encourages you to focus on what can actually be influenced. Your thoughts, your actions, your attitude, your choices. This approach creates stability because it places attention where it can be used effectively. One useful practice is spending a few minutes each day reviewing emotional experiences. Think about moments that affected you strongly. Ask yourself what happened. Ask why it affected you. Ask whether your response aligned with your values. These questions are not meant to create self-criticism. Their purpose is understanding. The goal is not perfection. The goal is growth. For example, imagine a situation where someone spoke to you disrespectfully. Instead of immediately focusing on their behavior, examine your own response. Did anger control your actions? Did you remain calm? Did the situation reveal an insecurity that deserves attention? Reflection transforms experiences into lessons. Without reflection, the same emotional patterns repeat endlessly. The same frustrations return. The same mistakes occur. The same wounds remain unhealed. Awareness creates the possibility of change. Another benefit of silent reflection is emotional clarity. Many people struggle because they cannot accurately identify what they are feeling. They describe everything as stress, even when the real emotion is disappointment, loneliness, fear, or sadness. When emotions remain undefined, solutions become difficult to find. Silence helps separate these experiences. It allows you to understand what is truly happening beneath the surface. Once an emotion has a name, it often becomes easier to manage. Clarity reduces confusion. Understanding reduces resistance. Reflection also teaches patience. Strong emotions often demand immediate action. Anger wants expression. Fear wants escape. Anxiety wants certainty. Impatience wants instant results. Yet immediate action is not always wise action. A calm mind recognizes that feelings change. What feels overwhelming today may feel manageable tomorrow. What seems urgent in one moment may appear insignificant after careful consideration. Reflection helps prevent temporary emotions from creating permanent consequences. This becomes especially important during conflict. Relationships are often damaged not by problems themselves, but by emotional reactions to those problems. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Decisions made in frustration often create regret. Assumptions formed during emotional moments are frequently inaccurate. A reflective person develops the habit of slowing down. They recognize that emotional intensity is not a reliable guide for important decisions. They allow emotions to settle before choosing a response. This approach protects relationships, preserves dignity, and improves judgment. Silent reflection also strengthens resilience. Life inevitably includes disappointment. Plans fail, people leave, opportunities disappear, mistakes happen. Painful experiences are part of being human. Emotional control does not eliminate these realities. It changes how you respond to them. Resilience grows when you learn to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Reflection teaches this skill. Instead of immediately seeking distraction, you allow yourself to experience difficult emotions honestly. You observe them. You learn from them. You move through them. This process builds inner strength because it proves that emotions can be experienced without being feared. Sadness does not have to destroy you. Fear does not have to stop you. Frustration does not have to control you. The more often you practice this, the more confidence you develop in your ability to handle life's challenges. Another important aspect of reflection is recognizing emotional triggers. Everyone has certain situations that provoke strong reactions. These triggers often connect to past experiences, personal insecurities, or deeply held beliefs. Without awareness, triggers control behavior. With awareness, triggers become opportunities for growth. When you notice a strong reaction, become curious. Ask what lies beneath it. Often the visible emotion is not the deepest one. Anger may hide hurt. Defensiveness may hide insecurity. Impatience may hide fear. Understanding these deeper layers creates freedom. Instead of fighting symptoms, you begin addressing causes. Reflection also helps you develop emotional independence. Many people allow their mood to depend entirely on external circumstances. A compliment creates happiness. Criticism creates discouragement. Success creates confidence. Failure creates self-doubt. This approach gives too much power to things outside your control. Emotional independence comes from building stability within yourself. Reflection strengthens this stability by helping you understand your values, beliefs, and priorities. When these foundations become clear, external events have less power to determine your emotional state. You begin responding from principle rather than impulse. Your sense of worth becomes less dependent on praise. Your peace becomes less dependent on perfect circumstances. Your confidence becomes rooted in character rather than outcomes. There is also great value in reflecting on positive experiences. Emotional control is not only about managing difficult feelings. It is also about appreciating what is good. Gratitude deepens awareness of life's blessings. Reflection helps you recognize progress that might otherwise go unnoticed. Many people focus so intensely on what is missing that they overlook what is already present. They chase future achievements while ignoring current opportunities. Reflection creates balance. It reminds you to acknowledge growth, effort, and meaningful moments. This practice nourishes emotional well-being. It encourages contentment without reducing ambition. It helps you appreciate where you are while continuing to move forward. Developing emotional control takes time. No one masters it overnight. There will be moments when emotions feel overwhelming. There will be situations that test your patience. There will be days when maintaining composure feels difficult. Progress comes through repetition. Each time you pause before reacting, emotional strength grows. Each time you reflect instead of avoiding discomfort, self-awareness deepens. Each time you choose wisdom over impulse, character develops. These moments may seem small, but they create powerful changes over time. A person who cultivates calm reflection becomes less reactive and more thoughtful, less impulsive and more intentional, less controlled by circumstances and more guided by principles. The world often encourages constant noise, endless information, continuous stimulation, relentless activity. In such an environment, silence becomes a rare and valuable resource. Use it wisely. Create moments where you can sit with your thoughts without distraction. Observe your emotional patterns. Learn from your experiences. Question your assumptions. Understand your reactions. Strengthen your awareness. These quiet moments may not seem dramatic, but they have the power to transform the way you live. True emotional control is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about becoming steady. It is about developing the ability to experience emotions fully without surrendering your judgment. It is about remaining grounded when circumstances become difficult. It is about responding with wisdom when others react with impulse. Through calm and silent reflection, you develop a stronger relationship with yourself. You learn to understand your inner world rather than fear it. You build resilience that cannot be easily shaken. You create peace that does not depend entirely on external conditions. And in a world filled with noise, confusion, and constant demands, that kind of inner stability becomes one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. Chapter 8. Track small improvements that lead to lasting change. Lasting change rarely begins with a dramatic breakthrough. It usually begins with something small enough to overlook. One better choice, one cleaner response, one task completed on time, one page read, one day with less hesitation, one moment of restraint. These small improvements may not look impressive at first, but they are the true signs that a life is moving in a better direction. Many people become discouraged because they look for change in the wrong way. They expect instant results. They want visible proof too soon. They compare their current effort to someone else's finished progress. When progress does not appear quickly, they assume nothing is happening. That belief is dangerous because it causes people to quit before the results have time to grow. Real improvement often works quietly. It builds slowly. It needs patience. It needs attention. It needs a way to be seen. That is why tracking small improvements matters so much. It helps you notice what is changing before the change becomes obvious to everyone else. It turns hidden progress into something visible. It gives your mind evidence that effort is working. It keeps you from dismissing the small wins that eventually create a stronger life. Tracking progress is not about chasing perfection. It is not about measuring yourself against impossible standards. It is about noticing whether you are becoming more consistent, more disciplined, and more stable. A person can improve in small ways and still change the entire direction of a life. In fact, that is usually how lasting change happens. Not by force, not by sudden transformation, by steady movement in the right direction. When you track small improvements, you learn to respect the process. You stop asking only whether you have reached the final goal, and begin asking whether you are better than you were before. That question is powerful because it shifts attention from frustration to growth. It teaches you to value progress that is real, even when it is not dramatic. It makes discipline more sustainable because it gives you encouragement along the way. One of the best ways to track improvement is through simple daily observation. At the end of the day, ask yourself what went slightly better than yesterday. Maybe you stayed calm in a difficult moment. Maybe you began your work sooner. Maybe you avoided one distraction. Maybe you handled a conversation with more patience. Maybe you organized part of your space. These moments may seem minor, but they reveal movement. They show that your habits are changing shape. Without reflection, those improvements can disappear unnoticed. A person may be growing and still feel stuck simply because they are not paying attention to the evidence. That is why awareness matters. Progress needs recognition, not praise. Recognition. There is a difference. Praise seeks approval from others. Recognition simply tells the truth about what is happening. It says I am moving forward, even if only a little, and that matters. It also helps to track improvements in ways that fit your real life. Not every person needs the same system. Some people like writing in a notebook. Some prefer a simple chart. Others may want to mark off completed habits with a check. The method matters less than the habit of noticing. The goal is to create a clear record of effort. When effort is recorded, it becomes easier to trust the journey. A quiet record of progress can be deeply motivating. On difficult days, you can look back and see that you have already handled many things you once thought were hard. That memory strengthens courage. It reminds you that today's struggle is not your first. It also proves that your habits can improve even when life is not perfect. This kind of proof is valuable because it is based on reality, not wishful thinking. Small improvements matter because they are repeatable. A huge change may happen once, but a small improvement repeated many times becomes part of who you are. That is where character is built. You become the type of person who follows through. The type of person who notices details. The type of person who does not ignore growth just because it is quiet. This perspective also protects you from discouragement. If you only celebrate large results, you will spend much of your life feeling behind. But if you learn to value small improvements, you begin to see progress everywhere. You start noticing that discipline is not something you either have or do not have. It is something you strengthen through repeated choices. Every time you choose a better response, the habit gets stronger. Every time you finish a task you almost avoided, your confidence grows. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, self-trust deepens. Tracking progress also helps you become more honest with yourself. Sometimes people imagine they are improving when they are only staying busy. Other times they believe they are failing when they are actually making steady gains. A simple record cuts through confusion. It shows what is really happening. That honesty is important because growth requires truth. Without truth, improvement becomes an illusion. There is wisdom in keeping the process visible. When you can see your habits clearly, you can adjust them with greater intelligence. Maybe one habit is too difficult to maintain, so you make it smaller. Maybe one routine is working well, so you build around it. Maybe one area of life is improving faster than another, so you give more attention to the weaker part. Tracking helps you make better decisions because it gives you data from your own life. This approach reflects a strong Stoic mindset. A Stoic does not depend on moods, to tell the truth. A Stoic looks at what has actually been done, what was repeated, what was resisted, what was improved, what was still neglected. That kind of self-observation builds maturity. It keeps you grounded. It prevents fantasy from replacing action. Another benefit of tracking small improvements is that it encourages patience. You begin to understand that growth is not always visible immediately, but that does not mean it is absent. A seed does not become a tree in a day, and a person does not become disciplined overnight. What matters is consistency. What matters is returning to the work. What matters is remembering that small repeated effort changes the shape of a life. This patient view of growth also makes setbacks easier to handle. When you are tracking small improvements, one bad day does not erase everything. It becomes part of a larger pattern rather than a final verdict. You can see where you slipped without turning it into a personal failure. You can recover faster because your focus is on the overall direction, not one moment of weakness. That is one of the greatest strengths of this habit. It protects your mind from all or nothing thinking. Instead of saying I failed because today was not perfect, you say I am still improving and today gave me useful information. That is a healthier and more honest way to live. It keeps you moving forward even after mistakes. Small improvements also create visible confidence. As you notice yourself following through more often, your self-image begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who always starts over. You begin seeing yourself as someone who can build and maintain progress. That change in identity is powerful. It affects how you speak, how you work, how you respond to pressure, and how you approach future goals. A person who tracks progress begins to trust the little things. And in life, the little things are often the real things. The way you spend your morning, the way you speak under stress, the way you finish what you begin, the way you choose calm instead of reaction, the way you return to discipline after distraction. These are not small in their effects. They are the structure of a stronger life. If you want lasting change, do not wait for massive proof. Start recording what improves in small ways. Notice what is becoming easier. Notice what is taking less effort. Notice where your habits are becoming more stable. Give those changes attention. They are the quiet signs that your life is moving in the right direction. What you measure, you notice. What you notice, you strengthen. What you strengthen, you repeat. What you repeat, you become. That is the real power of tracking small improvements. It turns ordinary effort into lasting transformation. Chapter 9. Set firm boundaries that protect your time. Time is one of the few things in life that cannot be replaced. Money can be earned again. Lost possessions can often be recovered. Opportunities may return in different forms. Time moves in only one direction. Once a day has passed, it belongs to the past forever. This simple truth makes time one of your most valuable assets, yet many people allow it to be consumed without careful thought. They give away hours to activities that add little value. They allow constant interruptions to break their concentration. They agree to obligations they do not truly have space for. They remain available to everyone at every moment, and then wonder why their own goals never seem to move forward. The problem is not always a lack of effort. Often the problem is a lack of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that separate you from life. They are guidelines that protect what matters. They help you decide where your energy belongs. They create structure around your priorities. They prevent other people's demands from becoming the controlling force in your schedule. Many people struggle with boundaries because they misunderstand them. They assume boundaries are selfish. They fear that saying no will disappoint others. They worry that protecting their time will make them appear unkind or difficult. As a result, they continue saying yes when they want to say no. They continue accepting responsibilities that create stress. They continue sacrificing their own growth to avoid temporary discomfort. The truth is that healthy boundaries are an act of responsibility. They allow you to manage your life with greater wisdom. They help you honor commitments that truly matter. They create room for meaningful work, personal development, rest, and relationships. Without boundaries, your time becomes vulnerable to every request that appears. Every day presents countless opportunities to lose focus. A conversation that lasts longer than necessary, an invitation accepted out of guilt, a favor that interrupts important work, a habit of responding immediately to every message. None of these situations seem significant on their own, yet when repeated consistently, they create a pattern where your schedule belongs more to others than to you. Protecting time begins with recognizing its value. Many people spend money more carefully than they spend hours. They would never hand cash to strangers throughout the day without thinking. Yet they regularly surrender large portions of their attention without hesitation. Imagine treating time with the same level of respect that you give your most valuable possessions. You would become more intentional. You would ask whether an activity deserves your attention. You would consider the cost before making commitments. You would recognize that every yes automatically creates a no somewhere else. This is one of the most important realities about time. Every commitment requires a trade. Choosing one activity means not choosing another. Accepting one responsibility means less availability for something else. Because time is limited, every decision carries consequences. People often focus only on what they gain from a commitment. Wise people also consider what they must give up. A strong boundary begins with clarity. If you do not know what deserves protection, it becomes difficult to protect anything. Your goals, values, responsibilities, and priorities should guide your decisions. These are the areas that deserve your best energy. When something threatens those priorities, a boundary may be necessary. This does not mean refusing every request. It means evaluating requests carefully. Before agreeing to something, pause and ask yourself whether it supports the direction you are trying to move. Ask whether it fits your current responsibilities. Ask whether it deserves the time it will require. Many unnecessary commitments disappear when you begin asking thoughtful questions. Learning to say no is one of the most practical boundary skills. It sounds simple, but many people find it difficult because they associate refusal with rejection. In reality, Saying no to one thing often means saying yes to something more important. Every disciplined person understands this principle. They know they cannot do everything. They accept that limitations exist. Instead of feeling guilty about those limitations, they use them wisely. A calm and respectful no protects your schedule from becoming overloaded. It prevents resentment from building. It allows you to focus fully on the commitments you choose to keep. Boundaries also apply to communication. Modern technology has created the expectation of constant availability. Messages arrive instantly. Notifications appear throughout the day. Many people feel pressure to respond immediately regardless of circumstances. This expectation creates significant strain on attention and productivity. You do not need to be available every moment to be responsible. You do not need to interrupt important work every time a notification appears. You do not need to sacrifice concentration simply because someone wants immediate access to your attention. Creating limits around communication can dramatically improve the quality of your day. Designate times for checking messages. Allow yourself periods of uninterrupted focus. Respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. These practices help reclaim control over your schedule. Boundaries are equally important in relationships. Healthy relationships respect mutual limits. They allow space for individual growth. They recognize that every person has responsibilities, goals, and personal needs. Some people may not understand your boundaries immediately. They may be accustomed to unrestricted access to your time and attention. When you begin protecting those resources, they may resist the change. This reaction is common. The key is remaining respectful and consistent. Boundaries become effective when they are maintained. If they change whenever someone applies pressure, they lose their protective value. Consistency teaches others how to treat your time. It also teaches you to respect your own priorities. A Stoic perspective emphasizes personal responsibility and self-governance. Boundaries fit naturally within this philosophy because they help you manage what is under your control. You cannot control how others react to your decisions. You cannot control every request that comes your way. You can control your response. This distinction creates freedom. When you stop trying to satisfy every expectation, you gain more energy for meaningful pursuits. You become less reactive. You make decisions based on principles rather than pressure. Another important boundary involves protecting time for recovery. Many people schedule work, obligations, and responsibilities while leaving no room for renewal. Eventually, exhaustion appears, focus declines, motivation weakens, patience disappears. Rest is not something that should happen only when everything else is finished. In many cases, everything else is never completely finished. New responsibilities continue arriving. Additional tasks always exist. Recovery deserves intentional space. Whether it involves exercise, reading, reflection, family time, or simple quiet moments, these activities contribute to long-term effectiveness. Boundaries protect them from being crowded out by endless demands. Without such protection, important forms of renewal often disappear. Boundaries also help prevent decision fatigue. Every unnecessary obligation requires attention. Every commitment creates additional choices. Every interruption demands mental energy. Over time, excessive demands weaken your ability to think clearly. Reducing unnecessary commitments preserves cognitive resources. It allows you to direct your attention toward decisions that genuinely matter. This creates greater effectiveness throughout the day. There is another benefit to strong boundaries that people rarely discuss. They create self-respect. Each time you protect what matters, you reinforce the belief that your time has value. You strengthen trust in your own judgment. You demonstrate that your priorities deserve attention. This process builds confidence because your actions align with your values. Many people experience frustration because they repeatedly abandon their own priorities for less important demands. Over time, this creates internal conflict. They know what matters, yet their schedules tell a different story. Boundaries help resolve that conflict. They create alignment between intention and action. As this alignment grows, life begins to feel more purposeful. Progress becomes easier to sustain because important work receives consistent attention. Goals stop competing with endless distractions. Energy becomes concentrated instead of scattered. Strong boundaries do not eliminate every challenge. Unexpected situations still occur. Emergencies still arise. Life remains unpredictable. The difference is that boundaries provide structure during uncertainty. They create a framework for decision-making. They help you distinguish between what deserves immediate attention and what can wait. This clarity reduces stress because fewer decisions are made impulsively. Protecting your time is not about controlling every minute. It is about ensuring that your most valuable resource supports your highest priorities. It is about creating enough space for growth, contribution, and fulfillment. Every meaningful achievement requires time. Every important relationship requires time. Every personal improvement requires time. If time is constantly consumed by low-value activities and unnecessary obligations, these important areas struggle to flourish. The quality of your life is heavily influenced by how you invest your hours. Boundaries help ensure that investment is intentional. Do not wait for others to protect your schedule. Most people are focused on their own needs and priorities. The responsibility belongs to you. Be thoughtful about commitments. Be honest about limitations. Be willing to decline what does not align with your goals. Be consistent in protecting what matters. A well-protected schedule creates room for meaningful progress. It allows your actions to reflect your values. It supports the habits that strengthen your future. Every day offers a new opportunity to decide where your attention belongs. Choose carefully. Guard your time with wisdom. Establish boundaries with confidence, because when you learn to protect your time, you are ultimately protecting your life. Chapter 10. Commit to lifelong organization through intentional daily habits. A well-organized life is not something you complete once and then maintain effortlessly. It is something you choose every day through small, repeated actions. Many people treat organization as a short-term effort. They clean a space, fix a schedule, or set a plan, and expect the result to remain stable without continued attention. But life does not stay still. Responsibilities change. Circumstances shift. New demands appear. Without ongoing habits, order slowly turns back into disorder. True organization is not a project. It is a way of living. It is built through intention repeated so often that it becomes natural. When organization becomes part of your daily behavior, you stop relying on motivation or occasional effort. Instead, you develop a stable rhythm that supports your life even when conditions are not perfect. This is the essence of lifelong organization. Committing to lifelong organization means accepting that discipline is not temporary. It is not something you practice only when life feels chaotic. It is something you carry through every stage of life. Calm periods and difficult periods both require attention. In calm periods, organization prevents future disorder. In difficult periods, organization prevents complete collapse. The foundation of this commitment is awareness. You begin by recognizing that every action either supports order or contributes to confusion. Even small choices matter. The way you end your day, the way you handle tasks, the way you manage space, the way you respond to responsibilities. Over time, these choices accumulate into a pattern. When you become aware of this pattern, you start to see organization differently. It is no longer about cleaning or planning once in a while. It becomes about continuous alignment. You begin asking whether your actions support clarity or create unnecessary complexity. That question alone changes behavior. Intentional daily habits are the mechanism that keep organization alive. Without them, even the best systems gradually weaken. Habits act like maintenance for your life. They prevent disorder from accumulating unnoticed. A few minutes of care each day often accomplishes more than long periods of correction after things have already become unmanageable. One of the most important habits is daily reset. This involves taking time at the end of the day to restore basic order. It may include clearing your workspace, organizing important items, reviewing tasks, or preparing for the next day. This simple practice prevents unfinished details from carrying over and multiplying. It gives your mind a sense of closure and readiness. Another essential habit is conscious planning. Instead of allowing the day to unfold randomly, you decide in advance what deserves attention. This does not mean filling every hour with strict structure. It means identifying what truly matters and giving it space. Planning creates direction. Without direction, even hard work can feel scattered. Consistency is more important than intensity. Many people try to organize their entire life in one effort, but struggle to maintain it. A sustainable approach focuses on doing small things regularly. A few minutes of planning, a brief moment of reflection, a quick adjustment to keep things in order. These actions may seem minor, but they create stability over time. Lifelong organization also requires flexibility. Life will not always follow your plan. Unexpected events will interrupt your schedule. Some days will be productive, others will be disrupted. Organization does not mean controlling everything perfectly. It means having systems strong enough to adjust without breaking. A flexible mindset prevents frustration. Instead of seeing disruptions as failure, you see them as part of reality. You return to your habits without guilt or delay. You correct course calmly. This ability to recover quickly is what keeps organization sustainable over a lifetime. Another key habit is regular simplification. Over time, systems become complex if they are not reviewed. Tasks accumulate. Responsibilities multiply. Physical and mental spaces fill with unnecessary elements. Without periodic simplification, organization slowly turns into hidden clutter. Simplification is not about removing everything. It is about removing what no longer serves a purpose. It is about refining your systems so they remain efficient and clear. A life that is regularly simplified is easier to maintain and easier to understand. Self-awareness plays a central role in this process. You need to observe your own tendencies honestly. Do you delay organizing until things become overwhelming? Do you create systems you do not follow? Do you avoid small maintenance tasks until they grow into larger problems? Awareness allows correction before patterns become deeply rooted. Without awareness, habits form unconsciously. With awareness, habits can be shaped deliberately. This is where real control begins. You are no longer reacting to disorder, you are actively preventing it. Lifelong organization also depends on emotional discipline. Many people lose structure, not because they lack knowledge, but because they act based on temporary feelings. When energy is high, they organize. When energy drops, they stop maintaining order. Over time, inconsistency leads to breakdown. Emotional discipline means doing what supports your system even when motivation is low. It means understanding that organization is not dependent on mood, it is dependent on commitment. This is what separates temporary effort from lasting structure. Another important aspect is respect for your environment. Your surroundings reflect your habits. When your space is clear, your mind tends to follow. When your space becomes chaotic, your thinking often becomes scattered. Maintaining your environment is not a separate task from organization. It is part of it. Simple daily actions like returning items to their place, clearing surfaces, and keeping essential areas functional help maintain stability. These actions prevent small disorder from growing into larger problems. Over time, they become automatic expressions of discipline. Technology also requires intentional management. Digital environments can become cluttered just as easily as physical ones. Files, messages, applications, and notifications can accumulate without attention. A disorganized digital space creates invisible stress that affects focus and clarity. Regularly organizing digital tools helps reduce mental load. It keeps information accessible and reduces wasted time. It also strengthens the sense of control over your environment. Lifelong organization is not about perfection. It is about direction. There will always be moments of disorder. The goal is not to eliminate them completely, but to reduce their impact and recover quickly. What matters is not whether disorder appears, but how quickly you restore order. A strong system is not fragile. It does not collapse because of one bad day. It is designed to absorb disruption and return to stability through simple habits. This resilience is what makes organization sustainable across years and changing circumstances. Over time, intentional habits begin to shape identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries to stay organized and start seeing yourself as someone who naturally maintains order. This shift is powerful. It reduces internal resistance. It makes discipline feel less like effort and more like normal behavior. When organization becomes part of identity, decisions become simpler. You no longer debate whether to maintain order. You simply act in alignment with who you are. This reduces mental conflict and increases consistency. Lifelong organization also supports deeper goals. When your life is structured, energy is not wasted on confusion. You have more capacity for meaningful work, personal development, relationships, and reflection. Order does not limit life. It expands it by removing unnecessary friction. The commitment to daily habits is what keeps this structure alive. Without daily reinforcement, even strong systems weaken. With consistent attention, even simple systems become powerful over time. The strength of organization is not in complexity, but in repetition. Every day becomes an opportunity to reinforce clarity. Every action becomes a chance to support stability. Every small habit becomes part of a larger system that shapes your life in a steady direction. In the end, lifelong organization is not about achieving a perfect state. It is about maintaining a reliable process. A process that keeps your life aligned with your intentions. A process that reduces chaos before it grows. A process that supports growth without overwhelming your capacity. When you commit to intentional daily habits, you are not just organizing your space or your schedule. You are shaping the way you live. You are building a life that can adapt, recover, and continue moving forward with clarity. That commitment, repeated quietly every day, becomes the foundation of a stable and purposeful life.